So every day on the range, I see players trying to hold and develop and maintain lag during their swing, and it's done with so much tension. Today what I want to talk about is how you can actually, what are the components of lag? How can you go about achieving lag without having all that tension in your swing so that you can get the power and deliver it to the golf ball correctly? As I mentioned in the introduction, every day I'm seeing players trying to do things like holding lag and bending their elbows and twisting their bodies all out of shape. Now when you're doing that very, very slowly, or you're doing it statically, you can hold that position. But holding is not what golf's about. Golf's about creating dynamic movement, so that as soon as you start to swing the club, there are forces acting on, you're creating forces and there are forces acting on you. You cannot hold those things. So we need to find a way of having the club create lag, or creating. So how can we go about creating lag without all of that holding, all of that tension in the swing? So we're going to look through a couple of different drills and things like that we can do to practice. But first of all, at its most basic level, the golf swing is a lever system. Now when I'm moving my arms back and through, because my arms are moving at different speeds to the club and the club's changing direction, you can see that's creating a hinge movement at my wrists. Now my fingers are firm enough that the club's not going to move in my hands, but other than that, my wrists and my arms are quite light during the motion. So when I'm swinging the club back and through, I've got this really soft, rubbery feel through my arms and my wrists as I'm going back and through. Now if I move the club away from me, whether it's with one hand or two hands, and let's say I'm going to stop my hands here, but my wrists are light. When I stop my hands here, the club keeps on going. So the club's movement has hinged my wrists. Now when I make a full swing, as I go back to the end of the backswing, I'm going to change direction. As I start my downswing, now I've got this feeling that the wrists are actually hinging a little bit more as I'm starting my downswing. So it's the change of direction. My arms have changed direction. The club's movement and mass is still going this way. That's caused my wrists to hinge even more. Now that's a massive exaggeration on what we would do during the golf swing, but it's a great way to start to get the sensation of how the club and the club's speed and my arm speed are interacting. Now as the club's approaching the ball, because my body's rotating, of course the club is going to want to swing into line with my arms as I'm approaching the ball. Now my job is, one, to keep my hands fairly inactive. My hands are monitoring what's going on the whole time, but they're inactive. So I'm never trying to use my hands to throw the club at the ball or flick the club at the ball. But by the same token, I'm never holding tension in my hands as I'm swinging down, because that's going to disrupt a very rhythmic and natural momentum transfer from my body to my arms to the club. Now, but what I do need to do is I need to time all of this movement correctly. So if I start off just making some little movement swings here, you can see that the club's trailing and then passing my hands and arms. Now my job when I'm hitting the ball is to time this movement, and this really is in its essence, the way you retain lag and then lose it to hit the ball. As the club's swinging down and through, it's catching up to being in line with my arm. Now my job is to time this movement, this free-wheeling movement, so the club catches up to being in line with my arm either at impact or maybe just slightly after impact. Again, this is a timing movement between my hands and arms and my body. So if I create that motion without turning my body, the club is likely to swing into line with my arms really, really early unless I push my arms forward. And that's a very, very awkward movement. And just like the holding the lag, I can't do it when I'm moving dynamically. So now my feeling is, as I'm swinging down and through, what's the sensation of my body turning? Now my arms are swinging and the club's trailing my arms, catching up and passing my arms. So I'm trying to get that sensation. Now the reason I've got the impact bag here is that I can practice that the timing of that body movement so the club catches up to my arm. So I've actually got the bag placed opposite my left toe, which is further forward than what the ball position would normally be. But now if I create that same motion, when the club meets the bag, you notice there's no drift forward with my hands, there's no extra movement with my hips. I'm allowing all of the momentum to transfer into the bag there with very little force. So this is just working on the timing. Now, if I just go to where impact is, my upper body is either square or maybe up to about maybe 10 degrees open. So through that range there's going to be fine. My lower body is going to be open sort of somewhere between about 30 to 50 degrees, depending on my flexibility and my normal swing movement pattern. So when I'm swinging the club into the bag, again, very low effort. I get this sense of the club trailing when I'm changing direction, and then when the club meets into the bag there, you can see that the last little bit the club actually swung into the bag quite freely. Now, doing what I was doing there looked really simple. When you first start to do it, I will guarantee a number of things are likely to happen. Feel free to prove me wrong, but a lot of players, when they do this, they'll either have drift with their arms, drift with their body, or they'll straighten their body up and create tension as they come into the bag. So from the side here, you can see that as I'm creating that motion, there's no change to my posture. My body's turning back and through, and I'm still retaining that posture as I go through. So there's very little tension throughout my body as I'm... So practice those drills at low speeds. Practice with the impact bag. But again, you're not bashing the impact bag, you're just creating the motion, finding the timing so that you've got your body in the right position and you've got the timing of the movement of the club and your arms and your body correct to deliver the club to the ball properly, so that will give you power, you will retain the lag as much as you need to in the swing, and that should make a massive difference to your strike and also power delivered to the ball.